The Morning Playhouse.
Fargo Moorhead's Playhouse in the morning, 194. Well, that's kind of sad, I suppose, but it's like half of us, so there's going to be some stories there, right? 47% of people say they do or have worked in a toxic workplace. So think about the most toxic one you worked in. What made it so toxic? How did you deal with it? How did you handle it? Who was the person that made it so bad? You got one of these toxic workplaces?
Oh, yeah. So I used to have this manager who would just micromanage everything I did. And basically, they would say, "Oh, you got to do this, right? You got to do this." And I would just kind of like passive aggressively say to them, like, "Oh yeah, as soon as I get done working here, I'll get right on that."
How'd that end up working out in the long run?
And well, I eventually got laid off from that job, but I didn't get fired. But I got laid off. So.
You worked at a place that can be described only as super toxic. It was not pleasant. Maybe it was one person. Maybe it was the whole culture of the place. What was so rough about it? 237 hits in the Playhouse. Call or text.
I don't give them any reason to anything. You want a crease down my apron? You got it, you know? I give them, and I kill them with kindness. I smile all the time, and the more I do that, the more they stay off my back. You're only there for a couple hours anyway, you know, and plus you don't even know what's going on on their end, you know?
Hopefully it turns around eventually so you don't feel like you're playing games. But good luck. You got one of these toxic workplace stories?
Luckily, it wasn't for that long, but I worked for this attorney who was, like, verbally abusive. It got to the point where I was like, you have to be nice to me. And he goes, why? Who said that? Why do I have to be nice to you? You know, and I'm like, because I demand it, you know, you can't just keep treating me like this, you know. And he would talk about, like, brag about these other, like, young girls that worked for him. Like, this one was in a beauty pageants and she won beauty pageants and blah, blah, you know.
That's pretty inappropriate.
Completely. And I was so nice to him, and he was such a jerk to me.
But out of your life now.
No, thank goodness.
Talking about that toxic workplace you worked at in the 194 Playhouse, sounds like yours is the boss that made it so bad?
Well, it was mostly he was incompetent. He would have made an okay assistant manager.
Sure.
But he was the manager, and he didn't know how to manage. He kept asking the owners of the company to tell him exactly what to do, and they come back to him saying, "You're the manager. You should be able to figure out how to prioritize what you need to do." He spent, you know, I worked at a movie theater. He was the manager of a movie theater, and the roof was leaking. We had rats. We had cockroaches.
Fancy.
The plumbing was backed up, and we had to, like, take a bucket and dump it into the sink because it wouldn't flow down. And meanwhile, he spends an entire week making a tool board where he got, like, a pegboard, and he outlined all of the tools so that if anyone took a tool, we would know about it. And it's like you've got a whole entire theater with elements that customers can see that you need to be dealing with, and you're spending a week on a tool board.
Well, speaking on behalf of all us incompetent bosses, we're trying our best, okay? You got yourself a toxic workplace story.
Yeah. When I started my new job, I noticed that my coworkers didn't really talk to me. They never got to know me. They never really spent any time with me. I felt it was kind of weird, like they weren't really interested in any friendship.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed that my coworkers kept sending emails to my boss with all the things that I was doing wrong as I was training.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually talked to them. They thought that their behavior was perfectly normal, and they just did this with all new employees. I guess I was overreacting, but it really did feel like a toxic work environment.
Well, and when you're in it, obviously it feels different than when you're, like, trying to talk about it or explain it to other people. Like, you have to be there sometimes. Your toxic workplace.
Oh, my God. It was horrible. I literally had to get a lawyer. It was terrible. We had a new lady. She was the administrator. Her very first day, someone was showing her around the office. She looked over her glasses at me up and down, and everyone was like, "Do you know her?" I said, "No." And it was hell from that day on. She just did not like me, and it was a living nightmare.
All right, so how did you get through that then?
You know what? I kept praying and praying, and I'm not even a praying person. But I prayed so hard for it to stop, and she ended up leaving.
So there's somebody, they're listening to the Playhouse right now. They're like, oh, man, I work in a toxic place. So there's some evil person here. What would you advise them to do?
I think you should keep a paper trail, and that's what I had to start doing. I had to write dates, times, what happened. Date, time, what happened. Yeah. Because it's like it's not official, but courts actually acknowledge it.